Hello dear students, welcome to this video lecture series on behalf of CLAT SATHEE. I am Dr. Animesh and today we are going to discuss a very interesting topic. It's a topic of law, it's a topic of current affair, it's overall a very important topic. You might get a question in English comprehension, any any part this question, this topic fits all. This is the I'll not hesitate to say the most important topic in upcoming CLAT exams. Understanding the intricacies of Uniform Civil Code will immensely help you in understanding a very enriching debate about this issue. The debate begins with the Constituent Assembly, and even today, this debate is going on, and I do not believe that this issue is going to be sorted out in the near future. But nonetheless, we are moving in a particular direction, and I am here to tell you all about it. So brace yourself for a very interesting and it's going to be a lecture which will be thought provoking. It means it will obviously indulge you in the argumentation and counter argumentation. It's very interesting. Now let's talk about Uniform Civil Code. First, this topic has multiple dimensions. First is obviously the constitutional status. What's the status quo? How we understand Uniform Civil Code currently. Then obviously we discuss what's the need of it. Why we want to have Uniform Civil Code. It obviously addresses the points in favor of it. Then we have impediments. What are the problems associated with enforcement of Uniform Civil Code? If it would have been that simple, we have already implemented Uniform Civil Code. But despite being in Constitution, even after what we believe 76 years of the Constitution, we are still far away from Uniform Civil Code. Then obviously we'll talk about attempts. There have been attempts, there has been discussion, the movement that is around the Uniform Civil Code, and obviously legally also we are moving in a particular direction. All that we will discuss in this topic. It's a very interesting topic. Okay. First, I'll tell you some history about what Uniform Civil Code means and how we understand it. Now, simple understanding. First of all, what is Civil Code? In the very beginning of the last module, we discussed Civil Code means all the laws which affect the civil rights of the people. Means if you have a right and that right has to be addressed with a remedy, that makes it a civil law. Obviously, civil law is a law based on right and remedy logic, while criminal law is based on the logic of prohibition and punishment. Civil law is based on the logic of rights and remedies. I have a right. If my right is violated, I need a remedy, and that is why we call it civil law. Obviously, it is different from criminal law in the sense that criminal law talks about prohibition. Yeah, you are prohibited from doing from this, murder, rape, theft, prohibited. If you do, it will be punishment. So the logic of criminal law is different. Logic of civil law is different. Civil law is a right and remedy based law. Now, when we talk about civil laws in India, civil law has many aspects. All the contract law is civil law, taxation, civil law, company law, civil law, property law, civil law, family law, civil law. So there are multiple civil laws. Generally, we have one unidimensional criminal laws in India, but civil laws are various, and civil law they are very different from each other in its approach. But civil law has a very wide domain, barring few criminal legislation, which again works on the logic of prohibition and punishment. Rest all the laws can be fitted under the umbrella of civil law in some way or the other. So obviously civil law is of huge importance. So when it comes to civil laws, the codification of civil law existed obviously before the Britishers as well. But the Britishers are a big fan of codification. They, from their experience from the 7th century, from the Norman invasion and from establishing common courts and what we know as common law, Britishers follow what we have common law. Common law is obviously the result of attempts of uniformity over centuries. They have tried to bring uniformity in their laws through many ways, and they're a big fan of uniformity and stability. So Britishers came into India and they attempted to bring uniformity by bringing various legislation. they introduced Indian Contract Act of 1872. See, the Contract Act we have is of 1872. Then they introduced Property Law 1882, Transfer of Property Act. Then they have Trust Act, again it of 18th century. A lot of laws they made. A lot of laws they made, and it was met with little to no resistance within India. Everybody accepted those laws. There is no problem. Nobody said why you are making a uniform contract act for all of us. Nobody said why you are making a uniform property law for all of us. Everybody accepted. Okay, fine. Britishers have made a law. It relates to matter of property. Everybody accepted. If it relates to contract, everybody accepted. They enforced a land revenue model, the taxation model. Everybody accepted. They made uniform uh, trust law. Everybody accepted. Nobody had any objection to the introduction of uniform civil laws. Uniform means it is applicable to everyone. In the very beginning of the last lecture, I stated that the law is already uniform towards 90% of civil laws. In India right now, we have corporate tax, contract, property. Every law is uniform for all classes of citizens. Nobody is exempted from that. Nobody is excluded from that. But what law is based on a person's identity? Obviously, we discussed family law. Family law, matrimonial law is considered exempted from that clause of uniformity. Means Hindus have different personal laws, Muslims have different personal laws, Christians, Jews, Parsis, everyone have their own set of laws. And that is not uniform. Unlike Contract Act, there's no Hindu Contract Act, there's no Muslim Contract Act. Everybody follows the same Contract Act. And they're all happy about it. You will not say anybody protesting for a separate contract law. Although there are elements of some separate idea about the contract in Hindu law, in Muslim law, but we are happy to accept the British idea of uniformity. Everyone is happy about it. But when it comes to family laws, the laws related to matrimonial matters, marriage, divorce, guardianship, and everyone, we have separate laws for separate religious communities. Now the question comes, why? Now see, what sustains religion? This is the first question that you have to ask yourself. How you get a religion? The answer is very simple. We get our religion from our family. You will not have a religion. You do not get your religion from school, from your friends, from your universities. You get religion from your family. And that's a very accepted fact. If we get religion from our family, it means that religion plays a very important role in constituting the family. And that is why people are very touchy, very particular about the family laws. Everybody is very particular about it. And the Britishers, they understood it in 1857. They understood that religion is a very sensitive matter for Indians. They were fine fighting the British wars, they're fine with subjugation. But the moment in 1857 a British officer asked them to use a, a cartridge which was laced with pig or beef, pig fat or beef, there was a revolt. So the Britishers, who were smart people, they learned from their mistake. They understood that the religion is very sensitive issue for Indians. वो समझ धर्म सबसे बड़ा matter है. They are very religious people. So they were very smart. So they thought, okay, we will bring uniformity in every other sense. We will not touch religion. In the sense, we will not make any uniform code about the matters in which the religion takes prominence. Contract was never considered to be a religious matter. Property, not a religious matter, but marriage. If you see two people entering into a contract, can you guess the religion of the parties? No. एक दुकान पे आप देखें कि एक व्यक्ति आया है सामान खरीदने रहा है, वो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कर रहे हैं. Can you guess what religion they are? Answer is obviously no. Somebody is buying land, somebody is selling land. Absolutely no. There's no way you will be able to understand what's the religion of the parties in a transaction, except when it comes to matrimonial matters. If you will see a marriage happening between two people, you will immediately recognize what is the religion of the party by just looking at the ceremony, looking at the setup. If there is the parties are taking rounds around nuptial fire, there's no need to ask them. They are Hindus, obviously. Saptapadi is happening. If they say Arabic khutbahs going on and the parties are, there is a absolute segregation between men and women, and they are asking whether you accept the marriage and all, you like, that's the Muslim marriage. There's a difference between how the people dress, how the people participate in it. If you'll just simply see the people uttering some important words, you will understand. You see mantras, you will see chants in Arabic, you'll see people uttering in English, and you'll understand what kind of ceremony is going on. So that is why marriage sustains religion, because marriage sustains family. So that is why religion is such an important issue in matrimonial laws. It cannot be equated with contract, or it cannot be equated with property law, because it is very, very important in religion. So that is why, while the Britishers, they uniformed all other part of civil laws in India, what they didn't touch is family or personal law. Family or personal law essentially talks about marriage, divorce, guardianship, maintenance, adoption, and succession. All these topics were not touched by the Britishers. They know, see, these are religious issues, and the people are very sensitive about it. So leave it be. So the Britishers attempted to bring uniformity, but they took exception to family matters. They said, let these Indians um, have their own religious law in matters of family. Rest all the matters will bring uniformity, and they successfully did, which I believe is not such a wrong thing to do. It's fine. But they didn't touch family matters, because that was the core of the religion. That's why you understand why we need a uniform, why the term uniform civil code is already partially there. 90% of the civil laws are already uniform because the Britishers made them uniform, and we continued that trend. All other aspects, we make laws. Parliament makes laws and everybody has to follow it. But the exception is only related to family matters. That's why family laws are also called personal laws. Personal laws because there is no uniformity that is based on a person's religion. This is very important to understand. Okay, moving on. Now let's talk about constitutional status of Uniform Civil Code. See, Uniform Civil Code, hereinafter referred as UCC, one has to very carefully understand the meaning of it. See, the Uniform Civil Code simply means that at the time of independence, obviously, when the Constituent Assembly started debating on various issues, the Committee on Fundamental Right wanted to make it a provision that Uniform Civil Code should be introduced in fundamental rights, so that it will be obligatory on the government to bring a Uniform Civil Code. It was Article 35 of the draft Constitution, and they wanted to bring it in. Fundamental rights, so that it will be enforceable on the government. And many people spoke in favor of the Uniform Civil Code. The foremost were obviously a very renowned scholar, K.M. Munshi. He stated that Uniform Civil Code will bring harmony and unity in the nation. It will very positively impact all the people. There should be one law for every citizen of the country. Once we have established a country and we are sure of its plural ethos, I'll not say secular because it was not the word used, but plural ethos of the country, that it is a country for everyone. It was not considered proper, and K.M. Munshi said so. It is not proper for us to have separate personal laws for separate communities, because it will hinder national integration. People will think that there is some legal difference between a Hindu and a Muslim and a Christian and a Jew and a Parsi, while there everybody is the same in the eyes of law. So why the court should deal us different? Why a Hindu man marrying twice will go to jail, a Muslim man will not? Why a Hindu can adopt and a Muslim cannot? So all these problems are there. So the permissibility of UCC was obviously there. In the Constituent Assembly, in the draft Constitution, Article 35 stated that there will be Uniform Civil Code for all citizens. That was later incorporated in Article 44. K.M. Munshi supported this idea. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar supported this idea. He stated, no, there should be Uniform Civil Code. We should go beyond religion. And he was very correct in his approach, because religion or religious law, personal law, they they had some problems of their own. First problem, which is very important problem, was all the personal laws are a bit misogynistic in their approach. Means the religion or religious laws, they don't give equal status to women. So women will suffer if the personal laws will allow to be operate will be allowed to operate. Ambedkar said. Say similarly, um, Aladi Krishna Swami Iyer, I believe, if I'm taking his name correctly. So he stated that obviously uniform civil code has to be there because it will not only help marginalized section, it will help women, it will help everyone, and it will promote simply a spirit of fraternity, a brotherhood. Yes, we are one people, we have one law for everyone. But again, there was very strong opposition to it as well. People stated that no, in the matters of family law, we are supposed to be governed by our own religious matters, religious laws. Because again, I stated that it is the family that sustains religion. You do not get religion by contract and anything, but marriage is something that requires some kind of religious intervention. That's a religious ceremony. Marriage is a religious ceremony. It's not like contract or property. It's a religious matter. That's why people opposed it. They said, see, we all have fundamental right to practice our religion, and our religion says that also in this way you have to marry, this way you have to dissolve a marriage, in this way you have to give the property after a person's death. Our religion have a very concrete system of doing that. We have been following our religious custom for a very long period of time. Now, so really you cannot say, okay, everything is abolished, now you have to follow a uniform code. A lot of great scholars oppose this idea as well. Some people said, no, this idea is very good. Now is not the time to implement. And that view was taken as true. That, okay, uniform civil code is a good idea. That's our goal. That's our objective. We should have one uniform civil code. But whether the time is right, the Constituent Assembly decided no, the time is not right. While we accept the premise of uniform civil code, we accept that it is permissible, it's desirable to have uniform civil code. This time was not right. Pandit Nehru, he agreed. He simply agreed to give that concession and stated, fine, we will allow the personal laws to continue, but we will introduce the Uniform Civil Code under Article 44, that is Directive Principles of State Policy. Means the state should bring a uniform civil code, but the state is not obligated to do so. It was made a part of DPSP, and the very difference between DPSP and fundamental right is that you can go to court for enforcement of fundamental right, but for DPSP you cannot go to court for enforcement of it. Fundamental right is must norm that the government must do, and directive principle of state policy is a should norm. The government should do it. So the uniform civil code is a should norm. Yes, government should bring uniform civil code. Whether they will bring it or not, the Constituent Assembly remained silent. They said, fine, it is for the Parliament to decide over the period of time. If the Parliament wants to bring it, they're most welcome. If the Parliament thinks that time is not right, well and good, no problem. Okay, so that is something that happened in the Constituent Assembly. The people supported it, people opposed it. So we got a middle path. We agreed that a uniform civil code is desirable, but the Constituent Assembly also agreed on the fact the time is not right. The partition happened and a lot of religious disharmony was there, a lot of violence was there. So obviously, the Constituent Assembly took a safe bet and stated, fine, as of now, we are shelving this idea. है ना? हम रख रहे हैं. But ठंडा बस सकता है. So obviously, nonetheless, they didn't omit this idea. They simply stated that, okay, the time has not come yet. Moving on. Why we need a uniform civil code? The desirability. We already discussed permissible. But whether it is desirable or not, plain and simple, the answer is more or less yes. Why so? First of all, obviously, secularism has become a very negative word, obviously, because of the abuse that has been done to this term. How it has been misused to favor particular communities over other. But notwithstanding that, if we call ourselves a secular country's first rule should be that it has it does similar treatment to all the citizens. If you treat people of your country differently on the basis of religion, you are not secular. You are secular in name, but in practice, you are what? You are differentiating people on the basis of their religion. So, Uniform Civil Code will bring uniformity and will say whatever your religion might be, we are not concerned about it. You will follow this particular law, this particular rule. Just like in America, you do not have different laws for Hindus and Muslims and Christians and Parsis and Jews. Obviously, America has a very significant population of them. In fact, all European countries, they have they are secular. Most of the countries are secular, and they are also very strict in their approach that Christian law is not there. There's a family code, and that family code is followed all over the country similarly, irrespective of the fact whether the parties or of what religion. Everybody has to follow that. Even the people who protest against uniform civil code here, once they move to US or UK, they are very happy with the civil code, the uniform code that is there. So if you want to be a truly secular country, obviously the uniform civil code is the way to go. Then we have women's rights. Yes, as I stated, all religious laws are misogynistic, especially if you'll go by the religious laws. Like I stated, the Hindu laws made a very significant departure from its classical Shastric law and became more or less a secular, it acquired a very secular nature, and thus women's rights were protected. You will be shocked to know that before Hindu Code Bill, the daughter had no right to the property of father because that was the Shastric law. But nonetheless, the Hindu Code Bill, Hindu Succession Act was enacted. And Hindu Succession Act provided that no, a daughter will get equal share as the son. The Muslim law, since there has been no significant reform in Muslim laws, a daughter gets the property of the father, but only half in compared to her brother. Now that's a problem. But are we ready to address it? We have not been able to address it till now. All religious laws are misogynistic to an extent. They're against the rights of the women. If you look from the feminist viewpoint, those laws are very problematic, but we allow them to continue under the garb of keeping religious freedom. Article 25, Article 26, all those arguments are raised. But again, we have to understand that many rights that our women of Bharat enjoy were not given to them through religious text, but by the words of the constitution. So that is why women's right is a very important aspect that has to be kept in mind while we are making a discourse on uniform civil code. Third is obviously national integration. Till the moment a person feels that, okay, I can follow a separate system of law based on my religion, you cannot expect them to fully integrate in Bharat. And you see, separate personal laws was actually the idea, especially for Muslims in India, was the idea of Muhammad Ali Jinnah. See, I'll tell you, before in the better part of 19th century and the beginning of 20th century, many people in India, irrespective of their religion, followed religious customs. Like Hindus and Muslims of Gujarat, they had their own system of property and succession and everything, irrespective of religion. Muslims followed the same law, Hindus followed the same law. So the customs were very local, and nobody tried to bring religion in it. Even in the regions, the Moplas and in the Bohras and the Khojas and the Ismailiyas of Gujarat, Maharashtra, they to an extent followed the native laws, not the Islamic law per se. So, but the Muhammad Ali Jinnah, he wanted to divide the country. He wanted to create a new nation on religious lines. So he pressurized Britishers into enacting what we call a Shariat Application Act of 1937. And through that, he stated that, see, any person who is a Muslim will no longer be governed by customary law that was prevalent at that place, but rather will be governed by Shariat law, means Islamic law, which was based on a compilation of laws which was actually promulgated by Aurangzeb, Fatwa-i Alamgiri. So Jinnah advocated for Aurangzeb's a code of family laws to be of Shariat law to be of paramount consideration. So obviously, Jinnah, you understand how he was the enemy of the national integration, how he wanted to part, and he successfully got what he wanted. Unfortunately, so this problem of having separate personal laws uh, and the demand for having a personal law, separate laws, and separate territory, we have been bit by this particular snake once in 1947. In 1947, separate laws, then separate constituencies, and separate nation. We saw how it unfolded. So the need of national integration is to have one law, uniform for everyone. Then obviously we have, as of now, we have multiple personal laws. The procedure is very complicated. And as a student of family law, I'll say it is very complicated to teach, to understand. And obviously now the society is progressing. So interfaith marriages happen. So separate issues emerge in that. How we will deal with those issues. So the procedure becomes very problematic. So if the Uniform Civil Code comes, it will make the process very simple. We will not have multitude of law applying on the same factual situation. एक ही मैटर में 50 तरह के लॉ लग रहे हैं और अनफेयरनेस हो रही है and you are simply getting confused about what law to apply and how to apply it. If we'll have one code, it will settle the dispute from now and forever. Okay, this is a very important aspect. Then we have attempts. See, attempts to bring UCC, there are several serious attempts that have been made to bring UCC, but before that, we have to understand some impediments to it. What are the problems why we could not bring UCC? First is obviously religious sentiment. Bharat, the religions, they also function as vote banks. So that the problem is if somebody tries to bring some kind of uniformity, people protest it, and that is across the section. When the Hindu Code Bill was introduced, people protested against it. Okay, so you are interfering in our religion. Obviously, Muslims protest whenever there is any reform that is brought to the laws. The All India Muslim Personal Law Board, they tried to change a very favorable, a very progressive ruling of Supreme Court in Shahbanu, and they attempted and they pressurized the government to enact a law to nullify that progressive judgment of Supreme Court. You see how problematic this issue is. So Article 25 gives you a freedom of religion, and then bringing uniform civil code creates a problem. You see why you are bringing uniformity, why you are forcing uniformity. If somebody wants to accept, they'll accept. Second is whether the government, how the government should approach it about it. If not everybody is taken into trust, then a lot of problems can be there. Religious conflicts can be there. Riots can be there. Instability can be there. So, Uniform Civil Code cannot be bought instantly because that will create a huge set of problems. A huge set of problems. Then, in the society as well, in our society, there are communities that are protected communities, like scheduled tribes. Scheduled tribes, they are governed by tribal customs. Bringing uniform civil code and making that applicable to tribal people as well, it will create problem of its own. Many people say how you can take away the tribal autonomy. But see, tribal communities, they constitute a very significant number of people in our country, 15-16% people. So if the 15, 16, 17% of the people are excluded from the domain of uniform civil code, what good it will do? So that's one impediment. Taking everybody in confidence, agreeing on a uniform civil code, how the uniform civil code should look. Even if we all agree on the desirability of that, yes, there should be a uniform civil code. Then how you will bring uniformity? Who will decide what should be there? Whether we should allow polygamy or we should stick to monogamy? How we to whom we should give primacy in matter of succession? Whether father should get a share, mother should get a share, wife should get a share. How we divide the property? So, even though most adherent supporters of uniform civil code, they have not been able to bring a draft that is acceptable to everyone or to the most of the people even. So the constant discussion is going on that okay, yes, let's bring uniform civil code, let's bring uniform civil code. But whether do we have a draft of it? The answer is no. That becomes problematic. Okay. So these all are some problems associated with UCC. Whether it is violative of fundamental rights of Article 21, your right to religion, whether people will trust it, and even if we accept that it should be there, then how is the biggest issue. We do not have a roadmap, and making a uniform civil code that is acceptable to everyone is a huge challenge. And see, while the ruling dispensation, the Bharatiya Janata Party, they have they had primarily three promises. One was Sri Ram Mandir, one was Article 370, the repeal of Article 370, and then Uniform Civil Code. Obviously, we have a by the grace of Sri Ram, we have a Sri Ram temple at Ayodhya. The problematic provision of Article 370 is no longer there. But Uniform Civil Code is something that the government has not drafted. Even in the third term, I do not believe Uniform Civil Code is going to be a reality, because I do not believe there is even a debate going on about it. The Waqf has created so many problems for the government. Uniform Civil Code is going to open Pandora's box. So we are all looking forward. Then there are attempts to bring UCCC. Honorable Supreme Court in multiple judgments in Sarla Mudgal versus Union of India, when a Hindu man tried to convert to Islam to marry a second wife. Just from marrying a second woman, he converted to Islam. Supreme Court says you're making mockery of religion, you are making mockery of law. And this particular problem has arisen only because there is no uniform civil code. A man is trying to game the system. He's trying to create problem for everyone, and he is trying to just convert for the sake of marriage. Okay, Islam allows 4 wives, so I'll convert to Islam to have 4 wives. You don't like your wife, you convert to Islam, you divorce her at your will. That's problematic. People will try to take benefit of those lacunas. The Supreme Court said, ki, see, obviously the person who is doing a malified conversion, it will not be valid. But Supreme Court stated this problem comes because there is no uniform civil code. Multiple judgment in Shahbano, Supreme Court again stated that there should be a uniform civil code. While declaring the triple talaq unconstitutional, Supreme Court again stated that okay, let's have uniform civil code. By this is very problematic. Supreme Court has multiple occasions, various high courts on multiple occasions have endorsed that the government should immediately bring uniform civil code. This is becoming too problematic. When Shabnam Hashmi reached Supreme Court stating, see, I want to adopt a child, but I cannot adopt because I'm a Muslim woman, while my Hindu counterpart Hindu woman can obviously adopt a child. Supreme Court stated that yes, this is problematic. We should have uniform civil code, although court allowed her to adopt a child under secular laws, under JJ Act, but nonetheless, problem is there. Okay, so judgments of the Supreme Court are there. Sarla Mudgal is there, then Shahbano is there, and number of judgments are there. So the Supreme Court has given judgments, and the government is trying to create secular alternatives like Special Marriage Act. Special Marriage Act is a secular alternative to personal laws. Supreme Court is constantly trying, the government is also constantly trying to bring some kind of uniformity, bringing some kind of reform in personal laws. In the very beginning, the personal laws were considered to be untouchable. I mean, the Supreme Court cannot touch it, on the Parliament cannot touch it. It is a religious matter. But now we can see a lot of amendments have been made to Hindu law. Daughters were given right on ancestral property in Hindu law. In Muslim law, triple talaq was abolished. Similarly, Waqf reforms have been made. A lot of issues. The government is constantly trying to create some kind of secular intervention in the personal laws. It is just trying to soften the hard stance of some people. So secular alternative is being made. Like Hindu adoption was there. There is no Muslim adoption. So we created Juvenile Justice Care and Protection Act, which allows a person to adopt in a secular way. That is also a welcome step. So we are trying to create secular alternative. We have created laws. There are laws in place that if a person wants to abandon personal laws and completely be governed by secular laws, they can do so. Then a very recent attempt, Uniform Civil Code of Uttarakhand. A Uniform Civil Code of Uttarakhand created history. Absolutely, a particular state By its sheer resolve, they have enacted a uniform civil code. Uh, they have created multiple rules that I'll give you a brief idea about it. The Uniform Civil Code of Uttarakhand applies to all residents of Uttarakhand, those who have been living for 15 years or more, those who are living for 1 year or more, those who are taking benefits from the government in Uttarakhand. So they are all considered to be on all those people. The UCC of Uttarakhand is applicable. There is fixed age for marriage, irrespective of religion, 18 and 21. Then monogamy has become the norm. Then the children born out of live-in relationship are given legitimacy, which is not there in anywhere in India other than Uttarakhand. Then they made the registration of marriage compulsory, so that no person can deny being married, or they cheating on their spouses and all. That becomes very difficult. Marrying 2 3 women, marrying 2 3 men simultaneously to dupe them, to cheat them, that has become impossible in Uttarakhand by the virtue of Uniform Civil Code. Then the issues like polygamy and child marriage, they have been addressed. Now the live-in relationship, so that it will not become exploitative. So the government has provided regulation for it, that if you are living in a live-in relationship, you should go and register it, so that tomorrow if the relationship turns sour, the parties will not go accusing each other of rape and theft or something like that. That's also a welcome step. But again, the Uniform Civil Code has an exception towards tribal communities. It says it is applicable to everyone, but not to the tribals. That's again an issue. But the tribals do not have the right to be considered equally. That's again a point to ponder. Uttarakhand of UCC is a welcome. It's a fresh breeze, but obviously that a lot of problems are there in that also. It's subject to many scrutinies. It's being challenged in the Supreme Court as of now. So whatever happens, that's a bold step. But Uttarakhand is a more or less a homogeneous communities and a very small population. Whether the country as diverse as Bharat can bring a uniform civil code or not, that's something that we'll have to wait in the future. I have tried to summarize the argument and position for you. I believe you should read more about it. Be very beneficial to you. There's a lot of content available online. It has a lot of information is there. A lot has been said about on this issue. You can also see the working paper on of Law Commission of India on Uniform Civil Code, in which it said it's not necessary as of now, but in the Law Commission changed its stance and invited articles or suggestions to bring Uniform Civil Code. So obviously, a lot of it is political as well, not strictly legal. So all those things you have to keep in mind. So I believe this concludes this issue. You got some idea about Uniform Civil Code. So keep learning. Thank you so much for listening. And the next class will learn basics of marriage. That's a very interesting topic. We all are very fascinated with this institution of marriage. We'll learn that what is marriage under Hindu law, what are the essentials, how it works,